This is the Career Success Podcast by me, Jason Connolly. And this week I'm joined by businesswoman Linda Plant, also known as the Queen of Mean, for your no-nonsense interviews on BBC The Apprentice's Final Five Candidates, where you provide advice to Lord Sugar, and you've done that over 5 seasons. Now, thank you for joining me today, Linda.
That's a pleasure.
Thank you. So, Linda, you've built your career from humble beginnings to become one of Britain's most successful business leaders. You've worked in a series of challenging executive roles, all the while consecutively growing and selling your electronics company. And you've done that after 3 short years for substantial profits. And today you run a highly successful property development company, interior design business, and your Linda Plant Academy, which we'll talk about the Linda Plant Academy later on. And on your website, and I think one of the real things that stood out to me is you're on a mission to empower the next generation of business leaders. That's just great.
So yeah, as long as it's not too technical, it'd be great. Yeah, go on.
Now, Linda, I think one thing that really stood out to me about you, and I'm a fan, I've watched The Apprentice, I really love it, and I've followed it for many, many years. You've had a very similar background to me. You left school at 16, and after leaving school at 16, you progressed quickly from selling fashion from a Leeds market stall to launching an international knitwear brand, Honeysuckle, which you sold for years. You then came back and become one of the first women to head a fashion company, Flotation, becoming a PLC. How did that all happen? I guess going back to first when you was at school, did you enjoy school?
I did enjoy school, actually, but the truth is I couldn't wait to leave. You know, I knew I didn't want to go and learn shorthand and become a secretary. I've been helping my mother in Dewsbury Market from the age of 8. So by the time school leaving age came, and I was so desperate to leave school, we already had 3 indoor stalls in Sheffield Market. So for me, it was no question. I actually left school at 15. I said to my mother and father, I want to leave. And they went, okay, leave. So that's how it was. So the truth is, I just couldn't wait to get into business.
Right, okay. And what was 16-year-old Linda like? It seems to me like you've had that strong passion from a young age in regards to selling.
Yeah, well, 16-year-old Linda was passionate, enthusiastic, motivated, driven, and ambitious. Much the same as I am today, but slightly older.
Right, okay. And where did this passion for business come from?
I don't think you can define where a passion comes from or why we have the personalities we have. You know, I'm an only child from humble beginnings with immigrant grandparents, but I just love business. It's almost a hobby to me. And most things I undertake in various walks of life, I'm passionate about. So I guess it's just within me.
Has there kind of been a driving force, do you think, for you in your success? And has that driving force well, I guess over the years, it's obviously changed. What continues to drive you?
Well, you know, I'm always looking ahead. I'm determined. I'm resilient. I believe in myself. You know, I'm driven, and I'm always ambitious, and I'm always seizing every opportunity, and I'm always moving forward. So I guess, you know, if you're driven, and what continues to drive you is because I'm still ambitious, I'm still motivated, I'm still evolving, and that's quite an important word in my life, because you know, I've evolved and evolved and evolved, and I went on The Apprentice at, you know, quite a major age. So yeah, I'm always evolving, and that's what drives me, and or I'm driven, and that's why I'm always evolving.
Well, when you've been on The Apprentice, then do you see kind of in those candidates over the years, have you seen a lot of any of yourself in the drive that those young people have, or you know?
Well, you know, I always say when you get to the final 5, they've gone through a pretty tough, you know, 10 weeks of filming, a lot of tasks. they've shown resilience, and although when they get to me, there's no praise given unless it's due. They're pretty good, but then you have to sort out the winners, and then it comes down to the business plan. It comes down to their personality, their characters, their common sense, which a lot of them lack, because they haven't really attached enough importance to the business plan. So yeah, but I have to say, in some of the candidates, I do see a young version of myself. By the time you get to the final five, it's been cutthroat. It's candidates beat candidates. So
It
I
seems
guess,
absolutely daunting by the time you get to the final five. When I watch it on the TV, you get into that, and you're sort of sat in that room and going from interview to interview. From the kind of outside looking in, it looks like a really intense process. Does it kind of feel like that from
well,
inside when it's being recorded, or to us?
well, so,
Yeah.
yeah. First of all, reality TV is TV first. So obviously it's edited. My interviews go on for 30 minutes in one take, so there's no break, and then they edit it the way they want to edit it. So, but I don't take any nonsense. I look at the business plan, I get rid of the waffle and the twaddle and get down to the nitty gritty, which so often they haven't really thought it through. And those are the things I pick on, because at the end of the day, although it's reality TV, it's real money that Alan Sugar's putting up, and it's got to be a real business worth investing in.
Indeed, and I guess talking about challenges in the sense of The Apprentice, in any business setting, as you go from one business to another, and like you rightly said, your business has evolved. There's lots of challenges, but has there been kind of any challenges over your career that have really, or adversities that you've faced that you've kind of really overcome? And
Absolutely, I think through my business career, I have faced three quite major challenges. In my business life, when I started off in the markets, I had indoor markets in 1974. I worked through a 3-day week. That meant we could only trade 3 days a week because there was only electricity. It meant when I had to go to London to do buying, we could only go on certain days because there was no lights on the motorway. It was very, very challenging times, but you have to adapt to challenges. And then in 1986, when I was buying millions and millions of dollars worth of merchandise from Korea, the pound absolutely collapsed against the dollar. Now, I did have stopgaps in place, but nothing like to the level that it went to. I think it went to 108. So that was a challenge which I had to overcome. And then in 2008, when the banks and the mortgage companies went broke, I had a substantial amount of property. So there was a challenge there I had to overcome. But a point I will make, that in times of terrible challenges, great companies have arisen. Let's look at Disney in 1929 after the crisis, Airbnb in 2008. But I've certainly lived through challenges.
Yeah, it sounds incredible to even think back to those times. I remember, I think I'm probably of the generation where I was born just when the internet still wasn't around, and that I remember just sort of logging onto the internet for the first time when I was about 17, 18. So I think the modern day generation, does in some ways don't realise how lucky they've got it. But in regards to success, what defines success to you? Because I think it's a very personal thing to each person. What defines success for you, Linda?
Well, I think it's quite hard, but I guess that for me, I'm always right. So first of all, I'm always looking ahead. I'm determined and I'm resilient, and I believe in myself, and I believe I get up if I fall down. I've got the ability to walk away, but I think, I recognize the importance of relationship, and I've got perseverance, and I've got the ability to see the big picture. So I don't get bogged down with minutiae. I follow through, you know, and I think those are key ingredients for success.
I agree. I think it's sometimes the ability to bounce back and learn from those
Well, you
mistakes.
have
And
to. Well, exactly. I always say in my talks, a mistake is a mistake is a learning curve for the next success.
I love that. That's such a nice way to put it. I started my business in recruitment many years ago, and there's been many knockbacks along the way. And I think it's that ability to just kind of look at the bigger picture, not get bogged down, like you said, by the immediate. And I think that's
Yeah.
what really kind of shines through. I really
And
think
it's not always easy to do that. It's easy to say, but when you're in it, it's hard to do it. But what's the alternative? You can't, you know, you've got to be resilient, and you've got to persevere.
you've sat on many boards over the years. Do you think there are similar traits that you tend to find in every successful person that you've worked with? Is that kind of a quality for you which you think is quite embedded in someone that's, you know, really made a success in their career?
You know, I'm not really a sitting in a boardroom type of person. I don't like boardrooms. I'm hands-on, and I like meeting rooms rather than boardrooms. So I like to, I love team building, and if your business is scalable, you have to. But for me, I like sitting in a meeting room and having regular meetings. But and I would say that the exposure I've had to a lot of successful people, there's many common traits. You know, there's a common thread on the people I've met, really. But remember, I am from a trading background, but I can turn most businesses, whatever the businesses are, not if you're a dentist necessarily, but you know, but but even if you're a dentist, you can bring the trading element into it. You might have one practice, but then you might think, I think I'll buy another practice, you know. So most of the people I've come up with have been traders. I mean, certainly Alan Sugar's a trader. And, you know, now I'm in the property business and I'm a trader.
It's that ability to sell, and it's that ability to communicate people. And I think the sales floor and the sales department of any business is the kind of engine room of the business. And if you don't have a strong sales department, you can't get your product out there to market.
It's
And
pointless, isn't it? All the rest is waffle. If you're not selling, if you're selling, everything else can come into place. But if you've got everything else and no sales, you're a bit in trouble.
you could have the best product in the world, but if you can't get it out to market, you're in problems. So, and I guess I believe business and personal life are sort of really closely intertwined. Do you kind of believe that? Do you have success habits and a routine that you have to be in? It sounds to me like business and personal do really closely interleave.
Well, look, I was a mother of two boys by the time I was 21, and I was just starting out on my career, and on a journey that took me to Hong Kong, where I eventually opened an office, and I was there half the year on and off. So when most mums were waiting at the school gates, I was probably negotiating prices in Seoul, Korea, designing sweaters. And I felt guilty, but I had a wonderful mother and father, and they always came in to look after my children. And I always spent quality time with them, maybe not as much quantity as a mum waiting to pick her kids up from school. But I myself had to be an independent child and come home and let myself in. But I would say I've got three boys, and they've grown up with great respect and admiration for their mother. So I think kids are a lot more resilient than you think. But I think especially I would call myself a sort of semi-workaholic, then family and work, it has to intertwine, but you have to make it in a good way.
What would you say? Because I think it's difficult now, and there's a lot written in the media about working parents, and especially with women and the challenges that they face in their career. But what advice? I think we have a lot of in our network working parents. But what would you say to someone who's maybe starting out in business or has a family, but wants to have career success? Would you give any advice to those people? Well, I think it's difficult.
It's the advice I give them is my own personal story, because I was a mother. I had two kids, and certainly I had to leave my kids, but I gave them quality of love and quality of relationship. And I am the proof of the pudding. So I would say that you can be a mother and you can have a career, especially today. So my advice would be to say, as long as you know your children are taken care of, kids are resilient, and if you're succeeding and helping to lay the foundations for a good life for them, right, then they will respect you, and you can happily mix the two, and you can still be a good mother and you can still have a career. And I'm living proof of that.
Have any of your children gone into sort of sales and got that inherent passion for business that you've had, or have they gone off on different paths?
Well, my eldest son is a barrister, so no, he hasn't.
Right, okay.
My middle son, who lives in America, yes, he's much more a wheeler dealer type, definitely.
Right, okay.
But he is super technical, unlike his mum. He can build a computer. And my very youngest son has in property finance. So none of them have gone into the fashion business or any of the other businesses I'm in, but they have all been interested in them. And I guess now I'm in the property business, and my youngest son is going into property finance. So we're aligning, but I've got a great relationship with my three sons.
Oh, lovely. So now, obviously, you're known, Linda, for above all else, I think, which we touched on earlier, The Apprentice. You're known for your tough interviews. And talking about interviews, what would be your key advice to people when interviewing? Because I think it can be a rabbit in a headlight scenario. And have you got any advice that you'd give to people when they're thinking about going out there for an interview? Or
yeah, I would. I have got some advice. Well, I think first of all, when you're going for an interview, be honest, right? Don't be afraid to be truthful. Make sure that you've got to first of all make sure that you know what the job's about, what skills are required, and be confident. Be honest, because honesty is the best policy. I've found it throughout my career. In times when I haven't been sure, I've been honest, and it's been good, and it's been the right thing to do. And you've got to know if you're skilled and right for the job, and just sit there and do your very best. Obviously, when I'm interviewing the candidates, it's a slightly different thing, because I'm interviewing for someone to invest in a business for £250,000. It's slightly different to being interviewed for a job. But make sure you've got a good CV, right? That's very, very important. You want to have a good CV, and there's a lot of tips about CVs. And as you know, when we talk about my academy, I've gone into critiquing CVs, because people don't realize the importance of them, and small changes can make a big difference. So be confident, be honest, have a good CV, research the job that you're going for, so you know what you're talking about. And I guess that'll take.
I think that's good advice. I think that's good advice. I think it's what I advise candidates as well, and we deal in the business of lawyers. Is we tell people to actually know their CV as well. I think sometimes when you've got 5, 6, 7, 8 years or 10 years plus experience, the dates can sort of escape you, and you can actually forget, what the dates were.
Yeah, it's very, and I don't like long CVs, right? Because to me, I don't know about you, but to me, and I went on the BBC, and I did some critiquing of CVs, which is why I've ended up wanting to sell this service. Because I like short CVs. People don't have the patience to read on and on and on and on, so pick your points carefully and be strong at the beginning and the layout.
I agree with you. I think I'm exactly the same. When there's big paragraphs, big narratives of text, it is. I agree with you. Now, the Linda Plant Academy is really interesting. I've followed you on LinkedIn for a long time, Linda, and I've seen lots about it. And I've read this. It has many different dimensions. It covers CV reviews, where you will personally review an individual CVs, but you'll also give business idea feedback. It covers literally every aspect of business that you need to master to get started and to scale up to the next level, from what I can see. But what made you decide to start the academy?
Well, it's only just launched. So for a while, I've wanted to write a business course, because I've had a long journey, and I've had success in several businesses, you know, electronics and fashion and trading. So I felt I'm equipped to write something, but I wanted to write it my style, because, as you know, and I often tell everyone, I'm not educated. I left school without a single qualification. And I've managed to be successful. I've managed to go from a market stall to the stock market. And I wanted to write a business course that everyone, it's not full of graphs and jargon and charts. It's a bit more, really. It's 12 chapters to success, but it's more like my own business journey, my life's journey. And in every chapter, whether it's team building, whether it's relationships, whether it's how to get an idea, I use my own personal anecdotes, how I've related to this. So it's a very unusual course, and I would say it's for everybody.
It sounds great.
Truthfully.
I think a lot of business books, and I've read many, I listen to lots on Audible, that they can be very long, and sometimes they can be very hard to follow. I think what you mentioned on your website as well about having a no-nonsense approach, I think that sounds great in a business book. It sounds like
Yeah.
it's very to the point, and I think that's quite refreshing. I think a lot of books are very, very big and very hard to understand. So would you say this is a good thing for someone maybe starting out in the sales industry as well, wanting to follow a similar, route?
Yes, and I think my two things. My business course isn't just for people starting out. It's even for
Right.
people who are currently in business. And what we haven't launched yet, because the course is launching in about 2 weeks, because I have to record the video for it. I'm also with the course because I feel it's very important for people to have some personal contact with me. This isn't just the course that you buy and never see me again. So I'm planning to offer with the course a 10-minute or 15-minute Zoom with each person who buys the course. Obviously, if it gets into hundreds and hundreds, I'll have to look at maybe groups, but a Zoom to actually let them have some Q&A, let them have some
Wow.
contact with me. And we haven't launched these things yet on the website, but I'm also going to planning to do some live podcasts and live Instas where people can ask me questions, and then at the end maybe we'll do some special offers, because the academy is a business, it is, but I also want to help people. I want to give back. I want, people are going to be out of work, or people need assistance. So for me, there's an element of giving back here as well.
I think that's great. I think so. It literally is from newcomer to someone who's been in business for years, or someone who wants to take their business all the way. And I think it sounds like by signing up now, it's a great opportunity for someone to actually be able to come to someone who's been highly successful in business. And I think it sounds fantastic. So I think on the subject of business plans, you talked about them earlier. Obviously, you spend a lot of time looking at them when you're on The Apprentice. What if you were to give just some standout advice to someone who's putting a business plan together? Perhaps they're just starting out, they want to go to a bank to get some funding. What advice would you give someone, when it comes to putting together a business plan? I appreciate it's a big topic. There's lots. Goes in a business plan.
Okay, so two things. So first of all, you've got to, when you put a business together, first of all, you've got to understand your target market. Is your business scalable? You've got to recognize that. Have you got a USP that sets you apart? Do you understand your competition? Who are the competition? You don't always have to be first, but you have to understand them. And then you have to understand the financial side, the cash requirement the business may need, all of these things. So that's why as well, because so often, and on The Apprentice, I get business plans that are 90 pages, and believe me, 80 of them would go in the bin. But the other thing is, a lot of them just get the financials so wrong, and it's so important because you've got to understand that. So I have actually, and I haven't written it myself, I've had it professionally written. I've had a template, a financial 3-year template, because I'm not good at numbers, but I know what's required. So it's what I call a semi-nursery template, and it gives you everything you need to put together a financial template from your business plan, good enough to take to a bank, good enough to raise finance, because you cannot underestimate those needs in a business. I mean, I get these on the Apprentice. I get these ridiculous assumptions, and there's no backbone to them because they haven't really done the figures. Oh, right, what are you going to do with the 250,000 investment? Oh, I'm going to spend 200,000 on marketing. Yeah, and so it's very important to understand the spread of what's needed. There are a lot of ingredients that go into baking the business cake.
So really, I think what we can take from that is make a big business plan that's simple, direct, to the point, and know your numbers. And I think that's important. I'm not a numbers person either, but I run a multi-million-pound business, and I don't think necessarily, if numbers isn't your strong point, get someone on board who numbers might be.
Numbers is not my strong point, but if you're coming in for an investment, it's slightly different. You're coming for a job, but if you're coming for an investment with a business plan, you've got to have numbers. You've got to have a P&L account in there, because otherwise you're going to fall down, and so often the candidates do. And so that's why I decided to add this in, because it's important. People come, and it's fine if you're making juice in your kitchen and it's all lovely, but next year, but next year you're going to be in Tesco and Sainsbury's. Okay, how are you going to get there? Do you know how it's? Do you know what? Do you know you have to Tetra Pak? Do you know how many is required? Do you know how much money is needed to? So that's why my template, I've kept it to £99, but it's really quite important.
I think when it comes to numbers, I don't think you can underestimate it. And I think that knowing what you're spending, knowing when you're going to get that revenue in, and what it's going to take to get that, and I think what is the lead time, they're all absolutely crucial things in business.
And if you've got a great idea, get help, because I'm no good at numbers, I can tell you, but I get help. Do you know what I mean?
I agree. It sounds like a fantastic course to newcomer or people with loads of experience. And anyone interested in this can go to the Linda Plant Academy. It's just about to launch. By the time this podcast is released, it will probably be all up and running and functional. If you're interested, the website address is www.lindaplant.com. You can find out more information there. Linda, it's been an absolute delight talking to you. I think this half an hour has flown by. I could have talked to you all day long about things. So thank you for joining us on this episode, and I'm sure all of the listeners out there have really enjoyed it as well. Thank you for your time, Linda. It's been delightful to talk to you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.